Okay, so you have applied for the job of a personal trainer and you have an interview coming up. So what do you do? What are the questions that you can expect and how can you crack that interview for that job? So these are the questions that we are going to cover today in this video. Alright. So first thing first, when you are preparing your resume, that is your CV, make sure you don't try to put things that are not, just because it looks fancy. Only put things that you already know about. Okay, don't put extra stuff over there just to look cool, just to make your resume look very good. Don't do that. Try to be as transparent as possible. Whatever things you know, just write that. Okay, that is the first thing, because people are gonna look at your resume and maybe ask questions from there. Okay, you have mentioned this, how much do you know about this, and all these things. And at that point, when you're not able to answer those questions, they'll immediately have a bad impression. They'll be like, okay, this is like everybody else, this guy is like everybody else, he's just making resume just so that he can get an interview call. That's it. That impression is gone right there. So make sure whatever you're putting in your CV or your resume, it is 100% true to the best of your knowledge. Okay, you actually know the things that you're writing over there. That's number one. Okay, all right. So let's say you're going for the interview. Second, which is a no-brainer, is make sure you research a little bit about the company that you're interviewing for. Now this is basic, like common sense, but some people actually miss it. Don't do that. Make sure you know a little about the gym, especially what the gym is looking for, what is the training protocol that they follow, whether it is a functional training based gym, whether it is a calisthenics based gym, whether it is purely weights, weight training, stuff like that. What is that gym about? Try to go to their website and try to find a little bit about what they are what is the main protocol or the principle that they are following in that gym. So that is number two. Make sure you do your homework, make sure you do your research. All right. Okay, third thing, before we talk about the technical aspects and what are the questions that you'll get asked, one final thing I'll tell you is, now I know you may be a little nervous, especially if this is your first time taking an interview for a personal trainer. Going for an interview for a personal trainer, you will be nervous, I know. Or if you are interviewing for a gym that you really want to work for, okay, at that point also you will become a little nervous. So remember, that fear that you're feeling is because you are feeling desperate to get that job. You're feeling like, okay, I need this job very badly, I really want to impress this, I really want to crack this interview. When you go with that attitude, right, with that mindset, automatically you will be very needy and it is going to come across very obvious. Now, even though it is a truth, even though that is true, I want you to keep it under control. Okay, don't think so much. Always tell yourself, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? What if I don't crack this interview? What will happen? What is the worst thing that can happen to me? I'll probably get somewhere else. So go with that attitude and automatically that will relax you, that will calm your nerves a little bit. So when you go for an interview, make sure you are probably listening to some good songs, or you watching some comedy movies or some comedy clips, maybe Mr. Bean, whatever gets you cracked up. Watch something like that and laugh it out. When you laugh, automatically you become confident, automatically your nerves calm down. Okay, that's the third thing that you should do, because we all know that first impression is the best impression. The first word that you say, when you enter that room and when you say hi, whether it is a video Zoom call or whatever it is, your hi matters a lot. So make sure you're loud, make sure you're clear. Okay, even though you're nervous, watch some of those videos instead of just trying to learn a lot about that anatomy and all those things. Those last 10 minutes before the interview, watch something that will crack you up, that will make you happy, or laugh out loud, so that you are a little cool. And maybe even you can practice talking a little. You can even make a video like this, just talk and make sure you're speaking loudly. Even though you're not speaking very well, even though your English is not that great, it's all fine, but make sure you're loud, because the moment you're loud, you automatically come across as a little confident. So that's the third point. First was resume. Don't put too many things over there, only the things that you actually know, put it over there. Second thing is, make sure you do your homework, a little bit research about the gym, what kind of training they are following, so obviously what kind of trainers they are expecting, that knowledge. And thirdly, be loud. Watch something that is a little funny or something, get yourself cracking up, get in that mood, and yeah, that's how you be confident. All right, Now let's move to the technical aspects. Okay, so expect questions on human anatomy, basic questions like what are the muscles in the quads, your quadricep muscles, what are the names of those. If they really want to make you be a little hard on you, they might ask you things like, tell me the name of the hamstring muscle, like the muscles in the hamstrings. Those are a little complicated to say, right? They might ask you that. They might ask you questions like, okay, what are the calf muscles, what are they called, and what are the rotator cuff muscles. So shoulders are very important. They'll probably ask you some questions related to shoulder anatomy and shoulder movement, stuff like that. They may ask you that, okay, what is the training like, how should the breathing be when you're doing squats, or during the concentric phase of a squat what happens, or or more simply put, when you're going down in a squat, what is happening? Is it the concentric phase or the eccentric phase? Stuff like these. They might try to confuse you a little on those aspects. So be a little good with anatomy. You don't have to be really good, but just the basics you need to know. Okay, shoulders, especially shoulders, muscles in the hamstrings, quads, and basic movements like bench press, shoulder press, squats, what happens over there, things like these. Then know a little. Second thing is nutrition. Make sure you know the nutrition chapter a little bit. They might ask you a few basic questions from nutrition, like things like what is metabolism, or what is BMR, what is BMI, and what are carbs, what are protein, how much calories are there in protein, how much calories are there in fat, stuff like these basic questions they'll ask you about nutrition. They'll ask. If you are obviously interviewing for a job of a personal trainer, they are not going to be too hard on the nutrition part, unless you are a nutritionist or you have some specializations in that area. They are not going to ask you too many questions, but the basic stuff they'll ask. They expect that from a personal trainer, because clients come there, clients will ask you all these questions, right? So if a client asks you some basic question like that and you're not able to answer, that will throw a bad impression on the gym itself. The client is gonna think, what these people are hiring, he doesn't even know how much calories in carbs. So make sure you know the basic stuffs of nutrition. They may ask you those questions. Okay, thirdly they'll ask you about program design. Like they'll tell you like, okay, if a client comes to you, what is the first thing that you're gonna do? If he's a completely new beginner, how are you gonna start with this client? What exercises are you gonna give? So have a little bit idea about those things. Maybe you'll tell them that, if they are new, I'll give them some easy exercises, I'll give them some cardio, I'll give them some flexibility drills so that they can be flexible and prepared for intense exercises in the future. First few days I'll start with those kind of things. Remember that. They'll if it's a gym where a lot of weight training is done, they'll probably ask you questions like, what is the difference between strength and power. Like power is basically you're trying to move an object very quickly, and strength into the speed component, when that comes, it is called as power. And they'll ask you questions like, in hypertrophy, what is the rep range that you follow? For strength training, what is the rep range that you follow? How much rest should you take? The questions that you have seen in chapter 10, those kind of questions they'll ask you. If it is specifically bodybuilding type gym, they'll ask you those questions around hypertrophy and stuff like that. That's the third thing. What else? Yeah, so these are basically the technical questions they'll ask you. Nutrition, a little bit about exercises, the muscles, the human anatomy, stuff like that. But remember, at the end of the day, what they are really looking for is like these things, all these questions which I discussed, these they'll ask you just to make sure that you have the basic stuff, you have some kind of substance in you. Just for that initial screening, they'll do that. Then they're immediately going to check if you are gonna bring some business to their gym, because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, it's all about money, right? It's all about business. The reason they are hiring you is not because they are really concerned about their clients and they want their clients to get a very good service. They're really hiring you to get money. Now in that process, if they can give a quality service, great. Most people have this kind of mindset, most gyms. So make sure you are really good with these kind of questions, where they'll ask you, okay, how will you deal with a client? How will you convince a client to buy personal training services from you? What if a client says, why should I hire a client? Like, what's the point? How will you deal with that situation? Stuff like that. They might ask you some sales related questions. If it's a gym where they expect you to sell something, they might ask you questions based on that also. How will you sell something, how will you convince this person, how would you during a consultation, during a client consultation, what are the questions that you may ask. They'll ask you things about confidentiality. If a person shares you something very personal, how are you going to react. These things they'll ask you. So make sure you are you convince them that the importance of confidentiality and stuff like that. Okay, so these questions they'll ask you. They may also ask you things like, okay, what is your opinion about continuing education, like how are you planning to continue the education that you're already doing. Are you taking some steps in that direction, or how important do you think that is. This will give them an idea if you're a competitive trainer, if you're somebody who will be good for the gym in the long term as well, not just short term. Okay, yeah, so these are basically the kind of questions that you can expect in a job interview for a personal trainer. They might ask you also about a little bit of screening, like how will you screen a client who is coming for the first time, what are the screening drills that you'll give, or how will you design a program for this particular client who has come for weight loss, weight gain, all these kind of things they'll ask you. They might give you an example of a sports scenario where somebody is playing cricket, or you're gonna train a client who is into golf or who is into tennis. In that case, what is the protocol that you're gonna follow, or what are the main muscles that are used in this particular sport. For example, tennis, right? You have finger flexors, you have flexion, extension, then you have elbow movements, then you have this movement. Basically you're going into external rotation. So they may ask you about the rotator cuff muscles. The 4 rotator cuff muscles, you already know it, sits, right? Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor and subscapularis, these kind of things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now this, I have covered a lot of questions here, but chances are they are not going to ask you so many questions. They'll probably be more focused on knowing if you know the basics, if your basics are strong. If you have a certificate like ACE, it's pretty obvious that your basics are going to be pretty good. So just know the few things like human anatomy, which you probably have to revise a little before the interview so that you remember the names. But they are not going to be very anal about it. They are going to be more focused on your attitude, your confidence, your ability to handle pressure when they are talking to you, how you are responding, how well you're talking, stuff like these. And also some sales kind of questions if they are looking for that kind of thing as well. How good you will be at convincing people or talking to clients and stuff like these are the main things that they're going to look for. And yeah, when you do the research, when you do the homework about this gym, you'll get some idea about what are the things they are looking for. So everything that you say should be in that direction. Even if when they're asking you to introduce yourself or tell me about yourself, you need not tell about what your dad does, or what is your sister doing, where she is working and all these things. What they really want to know is how good is your communication skills. That is the reason they ask that question. Second thing they really want to know is how good a fit are you for them. So whatever you say, make sure it goes in that direction, about that gym. If it's a weight training gym, tell all the things that you are good when it comes to weight training. If it is a functional training gym, tell things that you are good at when it comes to functional training. Whatever you do your homework or whatever, and say everything in that direction, so that you should always think about that person. What is this person looking for, and how can what I have benefit this person? When you go with that attitude and when you say things like that, they're going to be more interested in what you're saying, rather than just trying to impress them with whatever you have got. And finally, one last thing is, make sure that you also ask them questions, especially if they tell you that do you have any questions for us or for me. Don't just keep quiet and say that no, I have no questions. It just means that I just want the job badly, that's it. I don't care who you are or how you're gonna treat me or what principles you're following. I just want the job. That is not very attractive. That's not something that it's good. Like, it's not good, as in, even if they do hire you, they might not treat you very well if they know that this is your attitude. So don't be that needy. Actually ask them questions. Ask them about the gym timings, ask them about what they are expecting from their trainers, or how well are they supporting their trainers. Do they help in continuing education, stuff like this. So when you ask questions like these, you are also in a state of power, right? It's more like a transaction, it's more like a business deal, a win-win situation where both the parties benefit. It shouldn't be like they are doing a favor to you by giving you that job. even if they are in a higher position, even though if the gym is really good, you should have that self respect. You should have that thing, okay, do I like this, do I like you? You may be great, but still, do I like you? That should also be there. So ask yourself what you want, and you can ask them questions too. You know that when they see that confidence in you, they'll automatically feel, okay, maybe this person has something to offer. That's the reason he is confident, right? That's the reason he's also asking questions. It's not like, you know, just give me the job, that's it. Okay, I hope I have covered a lot of topics here in this. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram privately. I'll put my link of my Instagram channel in the description below. Okay, hope this helps. All the best for your interview, guys. Bye bye.